So the live stream begins today, as I promised. We're continuing on Jordan Peterson, and we're also going to cover a couple of more characters, which are my favorite David Goggins and also Alan Watts. We will be diluting, hello Kiva, we're going to be diluting our extravaganza with Jordan Peterson with other characters today. So I think that this will be an interesting, thank you so much for sound report. Guitar Fry, hello. I think it will be an interesting mix and match version today because David Goggins is the person who appears in my streams quite a bit. This is the person that became a part of our. Yeah, we're continuing today. Scrolling, scribe, hi. David Gogginsing became a verb for uh, kind of self inflicted struggle, for elective suffering that we tend to break down in our tantric work. So David Goggins will be today, and Alan Watts. Alan Watts is a person who I tend to agree with on a lot of things whenever I encounter his sentiments, except for the use of substances, because I'm a firm. Uh, I I hold very firm stance against substances, against the use of substances, mind-altering things. So this is where we do not intersect at all, but otherwise, things that he says, I tend to agree with pretty often. So we're going to look through the quotes by Alan Watts as well today. He was getting notes. Wonderful. So, Jordan Peterson, David Goggins, and Alan Watts. Shall we begin? So yesterday we ended on Jordan Peterson's phrase where he was claiming that life is suffering, equating life and suffering. So that was an interesting one. And by the way, another thing, Kiva forgot the quote that left on. The purpose of life, as far as I can tell, is to find a mode of being that's so meaningful that the fact that life is suffering is no longer relevant. This was our last quote yesterday. And another interesting thing is whenever I disagree with the quote, like we started doing yesterday in yesterday's stream, I will try to reword it in a way that I like better. Because there is messaging sometimes, even in people who bring things up in their own way based on their own core personality structure that may be interpreted in a good, constructive way. So, what I will be doing today, if I encounter some messaging that can be interpreted in a good way, that can be brought to a more positive plane, more creative, more upbeat, let's say, more positive, more lively way, I will be trying to rephrase it. I will be trying to create a better quote, perhaps more balanced quote, perhaps a quote with messaging, generate messaging with more harmony in it, with more that will be more life forward. So that's what we're going to do. 66. Hello, I got a reply to you, by the way. So, thank you, Kiva. We're going to begin. So there is a piece of poetry from Jordan Peterson that, again, gives me, when I glance through it, it gives me so much sympathy towards him. Life is suffering. Love is the desire to see unnecessary suffering ameliorated. Truth is the handmaiden of love. Dialogue is the pathway to truth. Humility is recognition of personal insufficiency and the willingness to learn. To learn is to die voluntarily and be born again in great ways and small. To learn is to die voluntarily and be born again in great ways and small. So speech must be untrammeled, so that dialogue can take place, so that we can all humbly learn, so that truth can serve love, so that suffering can be ameliorated, so that we can all stumble forward to the kingdom of God. GCA, yes, you are, just started. So, this is an interesting one. That gives me a glimpse into his actual relationship to this idea of suffering, the imminence of suffering, because here he actually gives some hope to that suffering can be ameliorated. Because from the previous quote, I derived that suffering for him is the integral part that's always weighing on you, that is very dominant part of life, and that you need to distract yourself to not feel it or to not hang on it. And here, he brings love as an antidote to kind of love is either some delirium against suffering or the antidote against suffering. And also another thing is that he equates amelioration of suffering as the pathway to the kingdom of God, because I'm kind of under impression that, thank you, New Beginnings, because he's a little bit of, from some religious bias, I guess. So basically the sequence of events here is that life is suffering, but there is love. And then for love, there needs to be truth. And then the dialogue is the tool that helps to achieve truth. And then humility is something that allows you to be in the dialogue. And then to learn is to die voluntarily and be born again. I guess just he put it there. Basically also, yeah, this death, ego death is the concept that's prominent in Eastern spirituality. Ego death is perhaps referred to here. To die voluntarily is to learn and to be born again through new knowledge. So he equates actually the knowledge that you have to existence. I guess to being alive, to feeling alive is to know something, and then to die means to forgo things that you used to know. And thank you guys. And then to Shakira's talking about spirituality. And then to learn something new is to be born again. Well, it applies to experiential things, I think, more. Again, when you bring it to the behavioral plane. So it's actually hard to disagree with this one. It's hard to disagree with this one because at least here we see some way out of the imminence of suffering, out of the dominant of suffering, perhaps, because he allows something else to fill the space instead of just suffering, dominating everything, and being this dominant of life. So to me, this is a very positive thing to see from this quote. So otherwise, I don't have much commentary here. It's a loaded chain of things. I suggest we just move on. Robert, I am not interested in dating or anything like that. I'm not single, and my personal life, I'm not going to talk about it in my streams. Thank you, Kilushka. Thank you so much. But like suffering is a great experience too, like it has its own taste. Like be it pain, be it pleasure, neither needs to be put on a pedestal. See them for what they are. Exactly, GCA. I like this notion of neutrality. And everyone ought to discover their own things from those experiences. Like when I talk about it, I usually use the notion that it is the language of nature that communicates to you whether you are doing something right or wrong, meaning pleasure and suffering. But for people, it can be refined to many more experiences, into many more lessons, into many more refined messaging. So yeah, you're right. Thank you, Kiyoshka. Suffering is always the driving seat. Either we're running from it or we come to it. Why do you need to run from it or come to it? You can just work with it you can understand what it is about, what messaging it tries to convey to you, and you can do something with it. It's not a constant in our life. It's not a dominant in our life. It's just some leverage that the environment has on us. It's just some leverage that can cause us to do things. Be it suffering of deficit, being suffering of some dysfunction, be it suffering of unpredictability of the environment, and so on. There are so many things that we can do with that. It's a creative process. Moreover, suffering is often is our treatment relationship with the situation. Suffering, no, I don't see pleasure negatively. I see pleasure as the reward mechanism of nature. So when we also may induce resistances, we may induce distortions in our own mind that make us view the situations as suffering as well. Unauthenticity, it's one of the symptoms of unauthentic life. An authentic life, when you run on some traumatic, for example, traumatic buildup that you've generated in the past. Now you're running on traumatic buildup, and now everything in life appears to you through this lens of suffering. Experiences that would be neutral otherwise. Thank you so much, 66. Experiences that would be neutral otherwise if you did not have some bias of traumatic experience from the past, they suddenly become very grim. They suddenly start feeling like suffering. Instead of appearing to you as a task, as a situation in which you just need to build some algorithm and solve it step by step. So suffering is very multifaceted, and when suffering is the dominant, when suffering is inevitability, it kind of rids a person of ability to reach clarity. It rids a person of an ability to strive for not suffering, because if a person believes that suffering is a currency to purchase joy, success, pleasure in life, then they're going to tailor their life to maximize suffering naturally. And through that, they will not be capable of performing self-reflection to an analysis of their life to understand where they are trying to resist, where they are trying to use the wrong tools to force situations upon, and thus maximize suffering. It's important to remove suffering from your picture as the main dominant. It is important to experiment with that, because this is when you will be able to optimize your life. If you're settling for suffering, if you, like certain like spokespersons claim as a dogma that suffering is the integral part of life, is the mandatory, dominant, the biggest thing, the equation with life, then of course you're going to live very limited life. You're not going to be looking for opportunities outside of that. You're not going to be looking for the most efficient path in life. You're not going to be searching, where am I doing things in the wrong way, where they could be done better. An example would be, what would we say? For instance, a person suppresses something inside of them, suppresses their desires, their creative desires. When a person refuses to take some productive steps towards achieving something that they want, and they, for instance, they hope, they expect, they build expectation that somebody else will do that. They expect that if they firmly believe that life is suffering, they will think that, okay, I will just have to endure that, instead of doing what I want. Instead of doing what I want and finding the most elegant, most efficient way to getting where I want to be, no, I won't be doing that. I will be suffering. And they make this choice because they simply believe that suffering is mandatory, suffering is dominant. So I use secular Tantra. Who you? How can we live a truly unbiased life within the world? Truly unbiased, you won't be truly unbiased, but you can revisit your biases. You can revisit your biases by identifying the dysfunctions, like what currently doesn't work in your life. You have your natural desires. That's some ground level needs that we have. Which of those are not satisfied? Are you anxious on the daily basis? Do you feel misery on the daily basis even without any reason to feel so? Do you feel deep dissatisfaction on the daily basis? In which situations do you feel dissatisfaction? Strong frustration. What are you doing towards that? Are you doing anything towards that? If you're not doing anything to come from frustration to joy, then what prevents you from taking that action? What biases are currently harmful? Maybe those biases were useful back in the day. Now, if there is some impediment, some barrier on the way from your frustration to your joy, the action appears impossible. What is that bias? It's important to revisit biases. I myself experienced it the first hand about suffering. When you start seeing it as just an experience of neurons firing, that when you start becoming an observer, you realize yourself to be separate from it. Yes. Tom Lizard, Tom Lizard. Sure. Enjoy, Lizard. I think we need to define the bounds of suffering. Like you bang your head while skating or is suffering, or when you hold feelings for someone and suppress it and builds up and pains, that's suffering. The suffering, a lot of the things, a lot of the physical pain is often, if you think about physical pain actually applied to the world of metaphors, applied to psychological processes. What is physical pain? It's often acute and inflammatory response. Inflammation begins, swelling happens, nerves get pinched, and that conveys the signal of pain. So the signal of pain, there are some like hormones, there are some chemicals that signal pain to the brain. So this is what pain is physically. It's agitation of nerves, pinching of nerves. And the situation is typically inside of the body tries to get ameliorated as fast as possible. The body will not hold on to inflammation if it is, for example, hit. And the body will try to regenerate as fast as possible. In our psyche, however, there are processes like perpetuation, getting stuck inside of this traumatic, painful suffering event. Because we keep replaying the scenarios that led to that psychological trauma. In physical sense, it would be, for example, person suffers with lifestyle-induced autoimmunity. So they have this inflammatory reactions fired up all the time. But they keep, instead of allowing their body to regenerate by bringing their nutrition to some proper format, by bringing their activity level to some proper format, by bringing their stress levels down, they would allow their body to repair that inflammatory response. Instead, they, for example, keep perpetuating it by creating external conditions that keep the body in this attack mode. And this happens with the psyche as well. So we need to find the way to remove this perpetual condition that keeps the psychological suffering happening. Just as we do this with physical things. If a person just fell, banged their, elbow on something, and there's a bruise now, this pain will be alleviated the moment this hematome disappears, and the body does everything to remove all of the tissues, all of the cells that got damaged through that. High oxalates, this was affecting, well, oxalates, yeah, ditch the spinach and beets, I guess. Okay. Best Rocky, you'd have better chance writing petition to the government. Don't do this on my stream. I'm not going to help you free any countries. Bozuma GCA, you picked it up from Kiva, the characters. Yeah. What do you think of the book Heal Yourself 101 by Marcus Rothkranz? I didn't read it. I was following Marcus Rothkranz for a while, but he has a lot of inconsistencies in his reasoning, so be careful. Search stuff and do your own literature search. Wazim, hey, my first time here. I'm Tantra coach. Today we started this new genre of talking about quotes of different famous people that I sometimes reference in my stream. So we're actually reading them and I'm giving commentary. So old coffee. Let's again, I'm doing like any propaganda, any form of propaganda, any form of agitation. Please write petitions, submit petitions on the proper websites to the government. It's not the place where you will get anywhere if you keep saying that. So we're going to move on with the quotes. Second quote for today is perhaps you are overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do. Okay, that's a good thing to reflect on, I guess. Perhaps. Back to focusing, yeah. So, Azim, I'm happy and welcome. Well, perhaps you're overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do. This is the classical hook of gratitude, I guess. So this is what I read here is the messaging of just be grateful for what you have primarily, and overvaluing what you don't have. I mean, the lack here, interestingly, however, the lack may be a very good tool. The perceived lack can be a very good tool for development because the lack can point out to so many things. If you don't just look at this, if you read this quote, perhaps we are overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do. The trap here may be some manipulative hook here that you may catch is that you may think that, okay, I'm overvaluing what I don't have. Let me stop wanting it. Let me stop looking into what I don't have, but desire, for instance. I suggest a more productive way of looking at that. What do I want? Where is my big lack? Can I, instead of valuing it, overvaluing it, undervaluing it, having all of those ranking things, can I just think about the origin of this desire? Can I break down this desire? Something that I don't have and that feels like a very strong, pronounced sense of lack. My recipe will be to sit down, again, whiteboard, or a piece of paper, write down what you want. See, not just the value of that, but see what obstacles do you have on the way to that. What are the barriers? What the conflicts do you have with that? Because desires that we cannot fulfill often come not only with the actionable barriers in our mind, but they also sometimes come with a conflict. Like, I want to have a house or I want to have a business, but I have these and these and these and these and these many conflicts that prevent me from embracing this desire fully. I have a very extended list of but that prevents me from cleanly embracing that desire. What are these buts on your list? What are they? What are you putting in the same box with that what you want? And this can also inflate its value because it's associated with so much conflict. It's associated with so much barrier, with so much inaccessibility. Starts appearing as some luxury item. But sometimes we need to find something inside of ourselves. There could be some paradoxes. For instance, some part of your personality you will find is not ready, is not mature for that. Why are you not? Then you ask question, why am I not mature for having this? Why am I not mature? What makes me immature to have this experience? What is that? Maybe I am too worried about the opinions of others. Maybe I am too cluttered with the concepts of others. Maybe I'm too hooked on some drama that happens in my life. Actually, if you look at the facts of what's happening in your life, if there's just too much drama that I'm cultivating in my life or I'm drawn to, of course I don't want to devote time to doing certain things. Or of course I don't want to show myself in some unflattering way to someone. Of course I don't. So demystify that, reveal that. And so that overvaluing, again, overvaluing is always like some inflated thing. We need to break it down to the lack. What am I lacking? I need to understand why you're lacking that. So I always advocate for holistic, neutral approach to solving these things. Instead of getting rid of your desires, no, let's get rid of your desires. No, let's suppress huge portion of your personality. No, let's not face your emotions. No, let's become numb. No, let's tolerate. No, let's find some dogma and keep going and like with this dogma. Because dogma knows better. No, let's enter some systemic box and try squeezing ourselves into some living that's not really characteristic for us, and let's call it self-improvement. Let's call it work on yourself. No, how about we actually face our desires, face our lack, face our needs, face our deficiencies, break them down, understand them, and build an action plan. What in our foundation has to change for us to be able to obtain those things that we perceive as a lack? Or what can devalue those things? Because if again we listen to this quote, perhaps you're overvaluing what you don't have. Why are you overvaluing it? Why is it perceived as some super critical thing? Why? This is another facet to study. Why is it perceived as a super critical thing? And if it is perceived as a super critical thing, but it's there and then, I cannot execute on it. Why are you in the position when critical thing is so far away from your grasp? Why can't you touch it? Why can't you execute on it? These are the things that I would be paying attention to in tantric work with a person. When there is a super strong lack there and then, super strong deficit there and then, but nothing can be done in the mind of a human. They feel totally suppressed and so totally out of touch with it, as if it's something in like somewhere in stratosphere. Let's see the chat. Oh, a lot of hello Mendoza. Well, I think if you desire God, then material possession, then all the lack goes away. You cannot desire God, I guess. I mean, you can desire God in the moments when you lose connection with this entity, with this property. But it's always with you, kind of. I perceive it as it's always with you. You can always connect with it. So it's a desire that can be satisfied immediately. Thank you, Wasim. Ooh, this one is a good one. The next quote. That's something that we touched up on in the previous stream, before yesterday. Intolerance of others' views, no matter how ignorant or incoherent they may be, is not simply wrong. In a world where there is no right or wrong, it is worse. It is a sign you are embarrassingly unsophisticated or possibly dangerous. Intolerance of others' views, no matter how ignorant or incoherent they may be, is not simply wrong. In a world where there is no right or wrong, it's worse. It's a sign that you are embarrassingly unsophisticated or possibly dangerous. For some reason, I feel like I dwelled on this quote for a while. It sounds too familiar to me. Hi there. Hello. Embarrassingly unsophisticated or possibly dangerous. Intolerance of others' views, no matter how ignorant or incoherent they may be. What is intolerance of other views? Intolerance is when I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to that, I'm not gonna accept that, I'm not going to. What is the degree of intolerance we're talking about here? What is that intolerance? Is intolerance of views when you go and you start annihilating people with some tools, let's say? Is intolerance of other views is that they shake your world when you hear them? What degree of intolerance are we talking about? Because intolerance of others' views when you start, I don't know, going, running around and harming people, yeah, it's probably dangerous. But intolerance of others' views, are we going to be tolerant? Are we going to be feeling bliss? Is it going to be the sign of mastery if, for example, in your presence, some people harm their children or harm their loved ones? Are we going to be tolerant to that? It's their views, it's their viewpoint. They view life as they harm others who are fully dependent on them. Are we going to be tolerant to that view? Are we going to sit there and be like, wow, this is life, this is a part of life, this is a part of the world, what a bliss? Are we going to not have, at least, even if we are fully Tantra, yes, even if we are fully integrated with the world, are we not going to have just a slice of something inside of us saying that this is probably not right? Is nothing in ourselves supposed to be disturbed when we're witnessing something that puts the most vulnerable people who are fully dependent on someone who abuses them? Are we going to be tolerant? Are we supposed to be tolerant to that? Because this is views. This is views and actions. We're talking about views and actions. Views themselves are, views translate to actions. Views translate to lifestyle. Views translate to choices. Views translate to how we influence our surroundings. I think this is a pretty strong statement, depending on what type of intolerance we're talking about here. But being 100,000% tolerant about just everything means that you're never going to exercise your viewpoints on anyone. You're not going to yourself entitle yourself with the ability to influence the world. Which, in an extreme degree, translates into you just watching, not interfering in things happening in front of you that may be viscerally really disturbing. And if you can interfere but you won't, because you desire to be very sophisticated and not dangerous and very well versed in the structure of the world, your non-interference becomes being accomplice on something that could be potentially prevented in some instances. So I don't know, it's a really slippery topic. Really slippery topic, I don't know. Intolerance of others' views. Understanding the social context of this statement, because Jordan Peterson is more, I guess, right-leaning person, more conservative-leaning person. And this is the side that wants certain freedoms of speech being preserved. And that type of freedom of speech is being under attack consistently. I think this kind of comes from rather this personal sympathy towards certain um, lifestyle school or like some viewpoint group, alliance to that group. I think we shouldn't overthink it, but I think it's a kind of manipulative phrase for that. Because in itself, it also contains intolerance. It contains intolerance, it contains lack of patience, it contains some lack of broader view picture of the world, I guess. So that's something that I don't know, really difficult to interpret, given again the social context of that. Okay, next quote. Is anybody inherently valuable to anything? No, value is subjective. Value is measured right in the moment when you're executing something. In the moment, value is determined by some objective things. Like if it serves for survival, yes, it's going to be valuable in the context of survival. If it serves your desire, yes, it will be valuable for your desire. And with people, you can use people as functions as well, and you can see them as functions as well. Some people, for example, with narcissistic personality disorder, they will be treating people solely as functions because they themselves don't connect with themselves very well. So they only can perceive life through others, through the view of others, through emotions of others. They will have this heightened degree of using other people as tools. So they will have certain like survival value for them. But I don't know, is anybody inherently valuable to anything? The opposite statement will be that no one is valuable for anything inherently. And that is a very mathematically difficult problem to prove or disprove. That's why we can only speculate on that. A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value. It's all subjective. It's all concepts. It's all man-made concepts, and we can again, today it's one thing, tomorrow it's the other thing. Behind this value topic, there is single person's experience. In Tantra, one of the things we strive for is to teach a person to experience life, to feel alive. And that is where you don't have the concept of value. You just don't. You will notice value probably through the void. You will be noticing value through the void, and you are going to be striving to fill the void with something. You're going to find tools, you're going to be finding resources inside of your life to fulfill something, to fulfill some creative objective that otherwise is perceived as a void. So that's where you will be appreciating value of things. But there is no inherent definition of value. There is no, I mean, we can, if you have a company, you assign value to your employees. Effectively, you're using humans as tools, economical machines. And you convert their lifetime into resources, into certain wealth, into some resources that you're acquiring or transforming that will have exact metric. Only in the economical system there is a measurable value of a human inside of the economical system where we can assign it some measurable thing in the units of money being a man-made abstract concept as well. But otherwise, what is that value? It's qualitative for one. It's very subjective. It's transiently changing. It's far more complex topic than just like, is it or not? So next quote. Women select men that makes them nature, because nature is what selects. And you can say, well, it's only symbolic that women are nature. And it's like, no, it's not just symbolic. The woman is the gatekeeper to reproductive success. And you can't get more like nature than that. In fact, it's the very definition of nature. The very definition of nature. This definition shows a little bit how how far the developed West moved from nature, because people are part of nature. Men are nature, women are nature, animals are nature, organic chemistry, organic matter is nature, inorganic chemicals are nature, physics is nature, atmosphere is nature, space is nature, the ground under our feet is nature, everything is nature. And when you look at nature as something there and then you assign women there and then that they are nature, why is Jordan Peterson not identifying with nature? Everything in the world is nature, exactly. So Jordan Peterson himself is nature. Are part of nature with certain functions, biologically with certain functions. Men and women only have those like reproductive functions that are precisely, strictly assigned. Other things that happen in our cognitive sphere, very flexible. Gatekeeper of reproductive success, he says, is the very definition of nature. Lobsters are nature, exactly. So he says that being a gatekeeper to reproductive success is the very definition of nature. This is a little bit overboard. I think this is so far one of the most absurd quotes that we found here in this list. Because nature is much more vast than that. Yes, we are part of the world. We are nature. Once our body dissolve back into the ground, we become the earth again, and then we come back, and then we die again, we become nature. I love Mother Nature. Exactly. We're transforming the whole cycle of nature functioning as inorganic chemistry becomes organic chemistry becomes more complex, organic chemistry turns into functional motorized molecules, let's say, that are capable of some complex functions. Then those functions pulse, then they die out, their life cycle ends, they turn into organic chemistry, but more primitive organic chemistry through the action of bacteria, and then they break down into inorganic chemistry, and then they're uptook by the plants, and uptaken by the plants, and then the cycle repeats. So this is what we're dealing with. Everything is nature. Peterson used a lot of emphatic words to bypass listeners' logic circuitry. Yes, actually notice that. There are a lot of manipulative hooks like that. A lot of the focal points, a lot of strong statements there that make you have this, again, this partial, make you have this castrated point of view. And that is this easily digestible product that's very easy to reduce to some handbook of actions of what to do, which again, this yesterday I mentioned, may be suitable for people in some difficult life situations when they're looking for simple formulas. Because how many people are exhausted yet lost? They're exhausted and lost and they don't know what to do. So a person is exhausted, lost, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know where to start, they don't have the energy to start anywhere. They need to start somewhere. And here is this authority that comes to their life. Again, I think I'm under impression that Jordan Peterson is not that prominent of a figure anymore in the media. But there are plenty more people who can offer this simple formula. What, for instance, 12 rules for life. Jordan Peterson literally has a book, 12 rules for life. How simple is that? These are your 12 rules. These are your 10 commandments. These are your, this is like your 3 rules. There is one psychologist in Russia who has, whose whole work is broken down into 3 rules, which I remember too. Do only things that you want to do. Don't do things that you don't want to do. And then there is a third rule that I don't remember. But these are 3 rules. You're lost in life, here are your rules. Live by them. Maya is exhausted. The fact that women select men, yeah, females select men, yes. Female body is responsible for this genetic selection, yes. Men are not figures, male specimens are responsible for creating as much novelty as possible, as many mutations as possible. And then the female body decides which novelty is suitable for producing offspring and propagating, and which novelty is useless, which genetic combinations are pointless to propagate. So female body has this property of selecting what will propagate. I'd say Joe Rogan and his community of comedians, along with troglodytes like Asmongold, have kind of taken Peterson's place. Yeah, because it's a very easy to digest philosophy. It has rights or wrongs, which he disagrees with rights or wrongs, but it has very clear rule book that we can generate on the basis of that. Ima, we're not talking politics here. If you're unhappy about any political events, write petitions to the entities that are responsible for striking those political events. Another thing, for who attended yesterday's stream, you will remember the context. The next quote is, in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. We talked about this thing, to be able to think, you are not becoming offensive by being able to think. This whole lore of Jordan Peterson is related to him not being able to speak his truth, I think. The deepest trauma is that he was not able to express himself fully, wholeheartedly, in a safe fashion. It was inherently unsafe for him. And I think this whole obsession with being able to express yourself in any circumstance, speaking your truth, no matter to whom, no matter what situation you are in, no matter what your objective is, everything is overridden by this need to speak your truth no matter what, which likely comes from being unable to express yourself or speak your truth somewhere there and then when he was most vulnerable. So this quote is, in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. You can think anything you want. Here, however, I would agree with on such level that a lot of people have internal censor. It's a good practice to sometimes see where you are censoring even your thoughts. How easy it is to not think about certain things because it's unacceptable. It's too scary of a territory. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes our psyche puts this natural block on the way of certain internal even discourse. Kiwishka, thank you so much. Sometimes we have this block that prevents us from going to certain thought spaces. However, if you can move around that block, if you can push through that, not push through that, but like find workarounds, if the barrier is not too high, sometimes it's a really good practice to think thoughts that you are prohibiting to yourself. One of the examples where it can be useful could be classical situation. Classical situation in therapeutic practices. One of the parents or family friends or whoever, DC, thank you so much. And thank you, Azim, so much. I'm really happy about that. For example, one of the parents abuses their child. The other parent pretends that nothing happens. Nothing. We are an ideal family. they cannot dare to think otherwise. They have a barrier to think, to even assume, to even imagine a situation in which this scary scenario could be true. They still process this scenario, they still feel it, they sense it. Rationally, they're scared to think of it. And this is where it's important to play with your internal sensor, because maybe reality is a little bit different. You risk being offensive, Jordan Peterson says. You risk being offensive primarily to yourself. You risk being offensive to the concepts and what you want to believe yourself. But dare to do that. It's very useful tool. Very useful tool. But think, if you said if in order to be able to speak your truth, you have to risk being offensive. That would make more sense probably at the face value. But to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. Well, no. Okay. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Masculine for life. I am discussing today Jordan Peterson's quotes, and also we'll be talking about David Goggins' quotes and Ellen Watts' quotes later as well. So that's the agenda. This is part 2 on Jordan Peterson. We did that yesterday. We started with that yesterday. Today we're continuing. If you risk being offensive to others, you also risk being liked and admired. Both cases are true. I don't agree with you have to be offensive either. Well, yeah, it's another one. You can always find ways to communicate your truth without offending people. That's also a true comment. Thank you, Kiva. Thank you so much. So compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Compare yourself. Compare yourself. I have better solution to that. Look at what your life constitutes. This is not yourself. This is what you've created, what you are creating. Because yourself, you cannot really assess yourself. What is yourself? How are we going to compare yourself? What is that yourself? What is the metric of yourself? Let's evaluate what you've created. What life you're living. How you're experiencing life. Your level of enjoyment. These things are something that can be compared, first of all. Then, I understand the sentiment as well, because it's pointless to create some idol and think that you are inferior and thus win yourself the permission, the internal permission and settling for not moving forward. Because how can I move forward in life if this person is so much better than me? How can I move forward in life if people already achieved and overachieved something? It's pointless, it's futile, so I will just sit. This is very, very harmful, to go and compare yourself with others. If that creates this learned helplessness in you. Oh, Кирюшка, thank you so much. Подарочки. Спасибо большое. Мадам моя дорогая, не обращайте внимания на тех, кто пишет гадости. Вы чудесны, они не стоят вашего времени. Continue the wonderful quotes and insight. I hope they're not bothering you guys. Thank you so much. Corey Nelson. Thank you. Итак. We have this Clash Maxer hair specialist. I don't block you. Some messages don't go through. It's YouTube. It's not me. So, comparing yourself can be a double-edged sword, because comparing yourself may be, like we discussed earlier, may help you identify the void. You may find being very strongly drawn to someone, or incredibly irritated by someone's successes, or someone's achievements, or someone's lifestyle. How else would you learn about something if you are not exposed to anything in the world? How would a person who grew up in a fully like white box without any external stimulus, how would they know to do anything at all when they don't know that tools exist, that certain experiences exist, that perhaps there's better climate where they can thrive better that exists? They don't know anything about the world. Their sensory library is very small. In that sense, exposing yourself to experiences, exposing yourself to the whole palette of the world as much as possible will just give you more choice. The problem commences when you start feeling an impenetrable barrier between yourself and what you super strongly want, or when you start super strongly wanting something. This is when the problems begin. When you learn to have light relationships with those things, with those experiences, when they don't turn into this debilitating feeling of being not worthy, of being incapable, this is when comparisons can be very handy. This is when exposure to experiences becomes really handy. But this is also when you are not necessarily comparing. You are just getting exposed to it. So I guess on the spectrum, comparisons, we need to turn comparison into exposure. Does that imaginary barrier stop fists of those? Okay. Gosh, Maxer, just get to other stream, please. So, comparison turning into exposure. I expose myself to other things. I expose myself to other experiences. And what is another useful thing to do there? If you feel hurt, if you feel some deficit, strong deficit, from being exposed to somebody else's experiences in your imagination, it's always very nice to be able to return back into your life. Because only your present moment, here and now, your full embodiment is the state in which you feel what your life constitutes. You have access to the resources that you possess and can control. This is the only place in time and space where you can control your life and make changes, is here and now. When you are looking at someone out there, you're there and then, your body, everything, all your resources are here and now, your mind is there and then, in anxiety, with some negative emotions, with some firing up stress. Important to be able to return back into here and now. And see, okay, I have these resources. If I really want that, for instance, how does it apply to my life? Another trick here is try to immerse yourself. Try to have this experience yourself. For example, you have some photograph. There is a girl on a yacht. Very beautiful girl on a yacht. And you're like, oh, I wish I was there on this yacht. With the same, with similar perception of the body, like on the photo, it looks so nice. Embody that. Put yourself on that yacht, embody that with how your body feels in that scenario. Spend several seconds living through that experience. What about you changed there? You are not leaving your body in that case. You are with your body experiencing that thing instead of separating your mind and bringing it into there and then comparing yourself with someone. No, take your body, take your mind, connect them, and put yourself in that experience. Experience it. This comparison will become embodiment. See how it feels. also might give you the keys to what right now about your body is not coherent with that experience. Maybe you feel a lot of burden in your body, you feel a lot of weight, you feel a lot of like, and when you put yourself into that scenario physically, suddenly you feel light, you feel energetic, you're breathing differently, your face changes, how your facial muscles work changes. And boom, through this comparison, you found a new, more productive, more pleasant, more pleasureful behavioral model that you can now exercise several times a day. Will it bring you in that exact scenario? Maybe you will create something different. Maybe you will create some scenario that is more connected with you eventually. But you can access a more authentic state of self through that experience. If you, instead of comparing in the mind, take all of yours and put yourself in that scenario entirely with your body and mind. Them. So if you experience it doesn't make you feel better, it does make you feel better. It does, because it makes you feel better in a way that it connects you with a more resourceful self. You're exposing yourself to how it can be, and you're trying it on. It's like trying on like new shoes. New shoes can be, well, you can look at the shoes, right? You can be like, oh, beautiful shoes. You try them on, you realize that you can't stand in them. Painful, disgusting. You're going to be like, okay, not my thing. Or you can put them on, the softest suede just melts around your foot, the most comfortable shoes on the planet. Suddenly you realize that your old shoes were much worse than these. And you level up through that. So you can level up through that, but the key is to immerse yourself in the experience, not just look at the experience. Because looking at the experience is delirium. Your body never connects with it. You are increasing the distance between your mind and your body, and that creates anxiety. That creates this problem with comparing yourself. Connect the two, experience, and know for yourself. Is it yours or not? Is it level up or level down? You have a point, but how can you feel your body in the presence? I understand the mind can feel it. Vazim, we do plenty of meditations here that are embodied meditations in Tantra. We've done those practices so much in my streams already. People just turn it on and then they live through the experiences and they get results. Experiential meditation is one of the tools of Tantra, one of the powerful tools. Of course, unless you are, you will never be able to photographically, explicitly recreate, for example, splashes of water when you are riding this yacht. No, you won't feel the water, but you will feel the impression of that. You will feel how your entire nervous system lights up to certain experiences. You may recall some movement sensations or may imagine them. It will be far stronger than just take your mind, let it wander somewhere, while you, with your entire biochemical system, totally separate from that, and only receiving frustration of not having that experience. Your body will be responding to the delirious nature of that in the form of anxiety. I only saw you today first time. I'll see your past videos or meditation later. Vazim, good idea. Yeah. If you comment under this stream when it's over, or if you email me, I can send you the exact videos with some good examples, because again, Tantra, the strength of Tantra for any form of life makeover, psychological makeover, increasing quality of life, relies on the fact that we work on the human entirely. We're not working on just talking. We're not just talking. Talking alone may take 10 years to solve a problem. We are doing experiential work, and moreover, if you go through full tantric protocol, there are several protocols for various life scenarios that of course are customized as well in an individual world, but in general terms there are protocols. Those protocols work not only in the space of your desires, lacks what you want, and your goals. Those things work also with your biochemical machine that cooks those experiences, because any thought is just a form that reactions, chemical reactions inside of your body and brain take. It's a form, it's a costume of those things. What happens is very animalistic chemical work every moment of your life. This is why in Tantra we also connect that. If we think of Tantra work, we usually start our makeover with conditioning practices, system of conditioning practices, in which, based on the initial condition of the person that comes to this work, we first retrain the alarm system in the brain to not fire off without survival needs, without urgency. We soothe those things. Then we improve the tone of the vagus nerve such that there is no such thing as getting stuck in stress. That's what modern people really love doing. They get stuck in stress, and their flexibility of their brain reduces significantly because the brain is in this constant state of survival. So we perform practices that improve the tone of your nervous system, your ability to switch, that soothe your alarm system, that improve also your connectedness with all of the sensory systems in your body. Thank you, Kiushka. That make you receive more information, that make you relax deeper, that make you conduct information better, that make you process information healthier. And then, along with this conditioning work, we're also moving on to the work with focus, switching, flexibility of switching, how easy it is to get stuck in some thought, get stuck in some concept, get stuck on some automation. Because the more demanding your life is, initially, what happens, your brain tries to automate as many things as possible. You become this train that goes on a track. The train doesn't go into the forest. The forest doesn't exist for the train. There's just one railroad. But the world is much bigger than the railroad. Your spectrum of things that you could be experiencing in life is far bigger than the railroad. But modern life often turns into a railroad. You turn into a train that just from Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we sometimes wake up, whoop, when something extraordinary happens. And suddenly we start noticing, forest, sky, field, village, city, people, what's happening? And if you don't practice susceptibility to these experiences and only practice being a train, these things will intimidate. You will not even accept them in your life. So in Tantra, we train to broaden this picture, to become bigger in our metaphysical space, in our psychophysical space. We become bigger. We become softer. We become cleaner as the conductors of experiences. We learn to breathe. We learn to look at things differently. We learn to perceive things. And then we work with concepts. Then we work with beliefs. People sometimes build whole religion inside of themselves. Religion, for instance, that all women are manipulative bitches. all men are absolute trash, animals. It becomes a religion. Whether you are aware of that or not, it becomes the concept. Some religious belief that you are carrying on and that carries over into your actions. And that creates the block on the way of achieving something that you want, to fulfillment of some essential need of yours. Those religious beliefs, internal religious beliefs, can also be modified. The trauma can be removed from these traumatic things that create those religious beliefs, that create barriers. We undo them. And simultaneously, while we are retraining our nervous system, while we are retraining our brain to perceive things healthily, we are seeding new things. We are learning new behaviors. We're creating an alternative or alternatives, broadening our perception. This is what Tantra is about. Practices are very fun to find many discoveries, Kayla says. Oh yeah. Me, I am one of them who gets stuck in perpetual stress, perpetual delirium, separation from situations, environments. Yup, that's me. Well, you are a perfect candidate for defocus practices. Defocus and relaxation. I actually, we've covered so many topics already. Missed you, GCA. I'm very happy that you're back. This is very deep, complex Tantra, very interesting, but what's your email? On my channel, you can find my website, you can have contact, you can fill out contact form, you can find my email there, so if you just go on my channel, all information is there. Like visualization, it's fun. Yeah, visualizations we couple with sensations, with sensory work. So there is plenty of fun stuff, fun, but very efficient stuff that we perform. A good quote here, by the way. I see that are you based in USA? I'm based in USA, but I travel a lot, so. Nastya, one query. Yes, Tantra practices can help alleviate these symptoms. Doesn't the body, mind, subconscious innately know the solutions itself? They know this. They will know the. It will click when you get to those solutions. They will click. They will tell you that yes, but you need to demonstrate to them. So Azim is from the UK. Wonderful. I have plenty of people from the UK on my channel, so. Idea, thank you so much and welcome. So they will be the entities that will give you the answer yes when it works. When you feel like resistance no longer exists, it's expensive, it feels good, it's amazing, it's breathing, it's pulsing, it's feeling. Yes, this is enthusiastic yes that you will register on all of those levels. So this is how it does. But we always have this active thing that tends to sabotage that. Yes, you know the truth. There is authentic self that knows what is good for it. But there's also some add-on that was built by years of living in dysfunction, for instance, out of need, out of survival, out of some environmental conditions. This add-on behaves in a way that goes against this authentic self. So this add-on will be doing things automatically. It's ingrained just as much as your authentic thing is ingrained in you. This thing also gets ingrained as the automation. This is why we perform those practices, to separate the two, to be able to see this authentic thing, and to be able to find authentic friendly add-on, new function, that can function together with it. Not opposite with it, but together with it. This is what we do. It's probably like many streams ago when I said I volunteer you. I'm glad you will do it. Is socializing that nobody these days are inauthentic, just process things internally? I don't know, I think we are on the cusp of new era of socializing, to be honest, where people will get so hungry, or they're already getting very hungry for people. And I think it was a short blip in our modern history when people forgone socialization in favor of isolation. I think there will be a resurgence of that very soon. So let's all um, make it happen. Let's all make it happen and strive for it to happen. A very beautiful new era. So, next quote by Jordan Peterson, Richard, hello, is if you're not willing to be a fool, you can't become a master. Fact. It's actually a really fun game to embrace this being a novice. I mean, I feel like I've done this so much in my life that it's easy for me to talk about it. But maybe I should challenge myself to be a novice in something outside of my comfort zone. Maybe I'm being novice all the time in the areas where I'm more or less comfortable. But that, remember our concept of beating in the wall of ego instead of walking your path. This is the quote that is related to that. When you are thinking, well, I will appear so dumb, I will appear this, I will appear that, and you refuse experiences that you want for that, this is what I call banging in the wall of ego. That ego, your thing, it should be your foundation. That should be walking behind you, and you're walking your path. When we're doing this excessive self-reflection, when we're focusing on doubting ourselves, when we're focusing on analyzing ourselves, when self, this is when it becomes problematic. And this is what I call banging in the wall of ego, or like sitting and scratching something. Do you socialize with random people? With random, I mean, with people that I like, I socialize, I meet them, yeah, I meet new people. And if I like them, I socialize with them. With random, no, I'm not interested in that. But truth is that I always meet people that are on my wavelength, even if it's like for some brief encounters. Thank you, Odjekani Bartek. Yes, Kiva's burden and perpetual stress and responsibilities that I was talking about, but finally I'm able to breathe. Lovins. Let's move on to David Goggins, by the way. Or let's do Alan Watts. Who votes for what? Alan Watts or David Goggins? Put A or D in the chat. A for Alan Watts, D for David Goggins. Who are we doing next? Or JP if we want to stay on Jordan Peterson. A, Alan Watts. We got one vote for that. It's crazy because of this ego we isolate ourselves till we go in our graves. No wonder anxiety and stress around their eyes. Your choice. No, it's not. I mean, my choice would be Alan Watts, probably. Yeah. So, Alan Watts. Okay. We voted Alan Watts. I pick M for men. Super cute. So, Alan Watts. Let's see. Let me skim through the quotes, and I'll pick some interesting one that I find interesting. Oh, wonderful. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. This is, to me, how I read this quote, that the meaning of life is just be alive, is to be here and now, to master the skill of being here and now, in full connection with as many senses as you possibly can, to experience life as fully as possible in here and now. In embodiment, Wayne, thank you so much. This is a thing that's a little bit difficult, especially when you're coming from achieve and hyperachieve mentality. It is very difficult when you are going through religious based, like Abrahamic religions, programming, social structures. Зайчик мой пришел. It's a little bit difficult to execute because you inherently search for meaning, for purpose there and then. At all times, that's always slipping away from you and is never achieved. In Tantra, we do exactly that. It's just how to be alive, how to feel alive. What is that beast to be alive? How is it to feel? Because I so often hear that either there's purpose in life or there is, I need something to feel purpose. I cannot feel. I always depend on someone. I always depend on someone to experience things vicariously. Or, another thing, I will take a photo of myself, post it online. Okay, now I see, and many people see, that I am here, standing in front of this beautiful building. People write, amazing, amazing. So it was an amazing experience. Fantastic. I myself did not experience that amazing until I posted this, until someone saw it, until I saw this experience through their eyes. I myself, I was not there, experienced this amazing building. To me, I experienced social reaction to this photograph, but in my mind, it validates that experience. We need to separate the two. That yes, I can enjoy posting and enjoying the admiration of my photograph and admire my photograph myself. But I also experience that experience. They're not equivalent, they're not interchangeable. Celestial existence. How do we stop thoughts that are random and regurgitating? Email me, I'll send you the live stream that's related to that if you want. Not stop, I mean there's a whole makeover. There must be a reason why you tend to have this mechanism of self-regulation. And so on. It's a loaded issue. If you want to describe the issue that you have with that, we can pinpoint probably the most effective solution. Wazim, see you later. So, there are two separate experiences. What you experience and what you experience through others, or how you see this past experience on photograph. These are two different things. And moreover, in the moment when there is a building here, I'm taking a photograph, I'm enjoying myself with this building. I am here and now, ideally. I'm not there and then thinking of how I'm posting this photograph. Because what happens, if I'm near this building in this park, I'm taking photograph, I am there and then focusing on people who will be seeing my photograph there and then. How I am posting it, how I'm harvesting some reactions from people. In that moment, now I am here, I'm posting the photograph. I'm waiting for feedback. I am not here and now, I am there and then. I am never in here and now fully. So this little phrase, the meaning of life is to just be alive, in practice turns out to be a really difficult skill to build. But really worthy. Because only in here and now, in full embodiment, you will feel ecstasy of life. Only in here and now, you will be able to feel pleasures. Only here and now, in full embodiment, you will be able to experience sexual even pleasure. Only here and now, you're going to be in full embodiment. You're going to enjoy food like nothing. Only here and now, you will be able to experience the creative wave, the bliss of creative process in full embodiment. Any process becomes overwhelmingly pleasureful when you're fully embodied here and now. Any process can become a total misery, emptiness, and nothingness when you are there and then. You can be with the most divine lover on the planet, going through the activity that can and potentially can bring you the most insane ecstasy and pleasure, the most overwhelming ecstasy and pleasure. But you're not here and now, you're there and then. You're paying electricity bill in your mind. Or your body doesn't belong to you, your body is haunted by some trauma, for instance. You're not going to be experiencing this thing. And you are not going to feel alive in this moment. And all of the pleasures will be at least drastically reduced in their intensity. And then you will say that, well, life is so empty. I need some meaning. What to do? What to do? What to do? I haven't made $1 million yet. I'll start a race towards $1 million. Great idea. Race begins. Or, what to do? I guess I'll make kids. I don't feel life. I don't know why I live. I don't know how to live. It's like life is futile. I'll make kids such that I also train them to not feel life, such that they also feel not alive, and they also want to have kids. And we start this absolutely broken, screwed up MLM of this inheritance of emptiness. Wonderful plan. Why not? These are some common examples. Or another wonderful idea that strikes people's minds is that some man with a beard built me a great eternal amusement park with with cotton candy, with virgins. Thank you so much, Kiushka. With virgins, with all entertainment possible, all pleasantries possible. So the only thing that I need is to just endure this for several more decades. Preferably I will not sin, like this book says how not to sin. Okay. So, and then I will go into this eternal amusement park. This is another wonderful idea that strikes people who are not feeling alive, who cannot experience living, because they close out gradually, mute down their senses, they mute down their emotions, their ability to enjoy life, their sensory awakeness falls asleep, their sensory richness dies out, their mind separates from their body, they no longer feel their body lives its own life, they only go back to their body when the body screams pain, when the body screams some super strong dysfunction that finally draws their attention, but most of the time they live outside of their body. And they're seeking the meaning there and then. Oh, is he sitting up in cloud? Do women like babies? Why women aren't interested in motherhood? In previous generations, women felt honored. No, they weren't honored to become mothers. I'm sorry. Jordan Peterson encourages women to embrace motherhood. Do you agree with him? There are so many women who were doing abortions and who were trying to avoid motherhood at all costs, but they were unfortunately forcefully taken by their husbands. And in Soviet, when abortions became legal, this was the first country that legalized abortions in the more or less developed world. There was such a surge of abortions, like my grandma's generations, they all had like 20, 30, 50 abortions done in their lives. It's not something that women embrace. It's something that women do by force. And liking the babies, it's a very infantile standpoint to like the babies, because actually attachment to the babies was impossible to entertain in the older days, because most babies died before the age of 5. So you like them, you like something that will very likely die very quickly. So it also some fallacy. It's very, Jordan Peterson is living in some idealistic, I guess, commercial campaign of 1950s, some baby boomer era. It has a little bit it's a little bit irrelevant for reality. And babies come with a handful of things that you need to endure as well. And especially in the nuclear family that Jordan Peterson also coincidentally um, appeals to. In a nuclear family, it's impossible to entertain motherhood functionally. It's just impossible unless you have a lot of resources to be able to, again, create a simulation of non-nuclear family with a lot of helpers, with people who will be able to take care of the household, with people who will be able to help you with the baby, because otherwise it's insanity to be locked in inside of the house with a baby alone. It's an insanity. It's an insane, unnatural thing to do for a woman. Babies also, you don't like all babies just like you don't like all the animals. There are babies are product of adults. Babies become adults. And some babies become products of adults that are incapable of conveying something to them genetically or by upbringing. So a lot of the babies are just the mere product of adults that produce them, and those adults are not appealing, so the baby will not be appealing. Some women don't feel anything towards their own baby as well. Some women feel such a frustration of being oppressed by this process, by this unnatural experience, as it is in the modern world. And even in the older days, in patriarchy in general, it's an unnatural thing. It's a natural thing for a woman to be oppressed and sit in the house with babies. It's total madness. So, in isolation, without any entertainment, development, it's insanity. So, to sit with that, it's a path to depression, because there's so much pressure on the one hand, so much deprivation on the other hand. The woman is just sandwiched in this tiniest slit of reality where the only reward she's getting is some hormonal reward that also gets kind of old as well if life is not balanced. It's a really complex topic. I wouldn't make such blanket statements about it. Thank you, Kiva. Many very pious people are extremely detached. That's a very deep observation. Thank you. Yeah, it's when you try to squeeze human experience into the books, usually they're missing out on so many conditions that must be fulfilled for that to work, including the previous experiences, including the resource base that's needed for that. I'll be plugging in my phone to the charger. Does Peterson still believe in the lion diet? I don't know. I'm glad I was not aborted. Nuclear families needing to outsource resource simulating extended families. Radical feminists say patriarchy is bad, but they fail to form communities and support single mothers. There is envy and jealousy, but no real sisterhood. The friendship they have is superficial. Well, because it's difficult. It's difficult conundrum to be, because the system is very powerful. The system that we built, and the system does have some reward per effort coefficient, obviously. So reward per effort is the thing that needs to be considered when we are thinking about these things. People also judge it from like, okay, there is like lifetime where I can do A, B, C, D, F, G things. So you are presented with this choice that's also squeezed in time that you need to make. Thank you, Kiwishka. And so there are lots and lots and lots of variables to consider. So for some people, it might be just, it might be associated, yes, with might be associated with an internal conflict of that. But I know that a lot of people, I mean, again, the movements per se, the ideologies, they are limiting in themselves. I don't like adhering to those movements because they, just like the counter movements, they also create artificial limitations. They become some form of limiting religious belief oftentimes. So it's really difficult to generalize those things. That's why I don't like questions, do women like babies? Which babies? Which women? In which circumstances? In what time frame? In the morning or in the evening? Do they like them when? We always need to define a very particular model that we're analyzing to be able to make the statement, to make a scientifically sound statement. We need to define the system very well with multiple variables, with all the conditions. If we are just taking blanket statements that this is good, this is bad, these people, all people like this stuff, all people like this behave this way, all people like this want these things, it's very deficient. Lots of words, exactly. Thanks so much, Kiyoshka. Nuance, nuance, nuance. Paxton, there. Hello, welcome back. I value your opinion more than any of those guys. Thank you so much. The chat is interesting today, Dwayne says. Yeah, it is. So, we are on Ellen Watts. We covered one quote so far. Let's move on. Oh, this is the real secret of life. To be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. Okay, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play. This is an important addition, by the way. I think that when people forgo the idea of playfulness, the play, this is when erotic death starts. This is when they start losing sight of feeling alive in general, being able to live, entertain the idea of life. It becomes impossible. Playful spirit is something that's insanely important to cultivate in your life. It's insanely important. This is what differentiates in particular. Remember, we had a stream on martyrdom and libido and depression. This is what differentiates living from slow dying. Slow dying, yes, you can go to work, you can care for someone, you can marginally care for your body and slowly die. Or you can live. What is the difference? Perhaps the secret ingredient can be defined as play. Playful spirit. Because what does play imply? Play implies imagination. Play implies spontaneity, novelty, fooling around. These things are properties of a very flexible young mind. And this is when we do feel life. This is when we generate memorable events. This is when we create new impressions. This is when we create new flashes in our mind, in our brain. This is when we train the agility of our biochemical system. Play is so important. So I'm fully on with this quote. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. 10 out of 10. Playful spirit, GCA, yes. All I know is I'm about to be father, but I don't know who the mother. Okay, sure. Just talked about, Jung talked about being playful too. He kept a private playroom with toys until he was literally too old to walk. Interesting. Immersing fully. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, this one is a good one. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. So to me, it's not interesting to read what's because a lot of things I agree with. So, it's a little bit, hello, alone. You're not alone. You're here now. Welcome to the Human Renaissance Political Party. We'll take care of you. Man, my boy Alan's spitting bars on bars, bro. Greetings from Iceland. Thor and Gretel. Hello. Welcome. We're 54 miles out, loneliest place in the world. Wow, it's insane. Let's go to David Goggins. Let's do a little bit David Goggins saying, woo! I've been craving that for a while. I'll try to read it in his in his voice, okay? But I won't be able to. Oh, no, it's painful. No, I'm not going to. Okay, the quotes from. We'll go back, GCA, to Alan Watts. Again, it's boring. I mean, I can talk in the words of Alan Watts. We need some room for debate or something. Let's do David Goggins sing. One quote. No one is going to come help you. No one's coming to save you. Boom. So, David Goggins said in the book, Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. Also, by the way, similarity with Jordan Peterson. Trying to contain the cows, trying to control the cows, trying to create some controllable domain as much as possible. Trying to become so invincible such that any spontaneity can be contained. Everything's under control. Do practice both Hindu or Buddhist Tantra. I'm practicing secular Tantra. I studied from a secular person, from sexologist who is initiated in Kamakya Tantra, but we did not do it through any religious school. What's the subject? I'm reading quotes of Jordan Peterson, David Goggins, and Alan Watts, and discussing them from my perspective as a Tantra coach. David Goggins' run is usually shorter. So, I mean, sometimes somebody may come, sometimes you may seek out help, and sometimes even after seeking help, you may not receive it. That's a good point. No one is going to come help you. No one's coming to save you. In fact, a lot of people are coming to save people. That's one of the typical languages of love to people. I noticed that's one of the prominent languages of love is to save. You save me, I save you. Codependent relationships are this relationship. Thank you, Kiushka. When we are tangling guts and trying to like save. Very deficient life. Very short-circuited life of saving. This like two people trying to like save, eventually closing out from the world is just shrinking on them, and they start eating each other, like eating and destroying each other. That's what happens. So this statement is inherently wrong, because there are people, if you are aspiring to be saved, or if your language of love is saving, then there will be people who will be coming to save you. The problem is that he highlights here is that no one is going to come help you. He switches focus to that you are alone in the world. I don't like that. I like more interpretation of GCA, who said that you may not receive this help. And in fact, you won't. In a lot of circumstances, it is your treasure that you need to find to be able to so-called save yourself, to repair yourself, to create your good life. No one is going to actually save you. It is your job. But there will be plenty of people who will come to try saving. And a lot of times this help, saving as the language of love, turns into this nutrition for the dysfunctional system that keeps the saving cycle going. This is where the danger of that is. I think David Goggins, with this focus that you are all alone in the world, no one will help you, no one will save you, no one will come and help you, no one will come and save you. I don't think so. The world is, people love helping, people love assisting other people, people love to enjoy shared experiences. I think it's in our nature, at least in many people's nature, to come and help, to do something together, to cooperate. The task becomes how to create a task that will be drawing people with good intentions to help. People love helping on creative things. People like doing things together. People like creating things together. People like experiencing together. People like generating emotions together. So coming together to do something is a very natural progression of things. So if you want to receive some help, become a leader first. Become a leader, create some task, and invite people to it. Invite people to do things with you if you want to be doing things with people, want help. As simple as that. But expecting the entirety of job to be done for you, not contributing to it, not taking leadership over it. This is a futile effort. But it's said that David Goggins feels all alone in life. It's kind of similar to Jordan Peterson in that sense. Oh my God. This quote. I suppose he was trying to address the trap of waiting for a better career, better relationship, etc. Yes, that's true. But then also, look at this. No one is going to help you. But sometimes the help is like you see when you open your... But it's also, it's from your initiative. People show things to you as well. That also can be treated as help. People love assisting. People love to have shared experience. I've never seen such people. And when they do, it's for narcissistic supply. People hate to take care of others. I mean, what I'm talking, the focus is that you create the structure, you don't forego your leadership. You are equally participating with that. I don't know, I've met people like that. I don't know. I mean, there is trade-off and stuff. Narcissistic supply. No, there is a component of exchange, yes. But in some more or less egalitarian structure, that's how it works. Solving somebody's problems versus helping someone. There are two different flavors. I don't know. I mean, I just meet such stuff. I meet such attitudes in life very often. No, maybe in some like little things. But sometimes also I treat a lot of things as that assistance. So maybe I'm perceiving it differently. I don't know. To me, it's a pretty prominent phenomenon in my life. I don't know. So we're supposed to be alone if no one cares. Are we supposed to be schizoid and just avoid human connection because people are misanthropic? No. Why are you supposed? Why are you supposed to do this? Someone taught you to walk, read, use the bathroom. If you can read this, someone cared a little bit. Yeah, that as well. I don't know. Yeah, stripping away nuance and restricting yourself to deterministic, fuckly controlled environment is a preservation mechanism, I think. Yeah. I love when people come save me. I'm still curious on whether there will be a review. Oh, how will we review the quotes, Kiva? There won't be. Because we're going through so much. Best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. GCA worked. Um, Either way it worked. So, it's a lot more than mind over matter. It takes relentless self discipline to schedule suffering into your day every day. This is a fantastic quote by David Goggins. This is what I mean by David Goggins saying through your life. Ultimately, that takes relentless self-discipline to schedule suffering into your day every day. There are two approaches, right? Why I use David Goggins' philosophy, so-called philosophy, as the example when we go through different tantric lectures. I use David Goggins as an example because his philosophy is prepare yourself for all suffering possible by numbing yourself against suffering. Practice it so much that you become so numb that you are not going to perceive suffering as suffering. In Tantra, we are diffusing away, we're removing this phobia of suffering by making suffering just an element of life. And every other bunch of elements exists in life as well. For David Goggins, for Jordan Peterson, there is suffering. There's an insane suffering, a thorn. And the whole life revolves around it. Facing it, studying it, delving in it, experiencing it, training for it. Because once, there and then, when they were little boys, something was so unbearable. Thank you so much, Kiwishka. Some suffering was so unbearable, so terrible, barely crushed them, that now they're scared of it. They want to never be in that position ever again. What is maturing in their sense? For them, what will be maturing? It's not a mature attitude. Mature attitude would be to grow past that. And I'm not saying like, oh, they're immature. No. People who are so-called immature, they just got stuck in a very deep trauma that they were not supposed to have, in experience and adaptation that they could not endure as children. That's it. So this experience became bigger than them. So what is the other way? The other way is when we take all experience, we become aware of all experiences of life. We make ourselves a very diversely operating machine that's capable of just pleasure, who has this legalized concept of pleasure, who sets pleasure as a priority, as a normal function of life, trains the skill of pleasure, such that so-called suffering becomes just a domain, just a cell inside of life. And then pleasures, experiences, different things exist as well. This is what we do in Tantra. This is where it's opposite. David Goggins, Jordan Peterson, they live inside of the bubble of suffering. And they can only glance from within it to things outside of it, never reaching it, because they're under the dome of suffering that defines their existence. And they learn to live inside of that dome. They're working out their psychological, mental, physical body to survive in that dome. Thank you so much, Everett Joe. And let's move out of this dome. Let's find the door out of this dome. Let's walk out. Let's see that this dome is like this little thing in the whole field of life that's accessible to you. This is where this verb of David Goggins came to my lectures, because this is the perfect illustration. To schedule suffering, schedule pleasure. It takes relentless discipline, and it's of utter importance to schedule pleasure, just pleasure, pure pleasure, physiological, normal, healthy pleasure, without any stimulants, without any unnatural chemical stimulants, external stimulants. Schedule pleasure. Enjoy the texture of your table. Schedule pleasure to enjoy you sitting at the table, at work, in your office. 5 minutes, schedule it. As a relentless discipline, schedule that pleasure. See how your life changes. Then walk back home. Make that walk relentlessly disciplined pleasure. Set a timer, 5 minutes, only pleasure, insane pleasure. I'm enjoying this walk as much as I possibly can. Exercise relentless discipline to cultivate pleasure, domain of pleasure in your life. How about that approach? Because there is enough spontaneity, there is enough of stuff in life that happens unexpectedly, that kind of challenges our self-perception, our feeling that everything is predictable, ultimately safe, ultimately comfortable. There are plenty of spontaneous things that may happen. Tomorrow there could be some economical thing that completely destroys the grounds for your wealth, for your future career. You will be resilient, you will have resources to deal with that if you are a pleasure-focused person. If you're a suffering-focused person, you are always on the brink of breaking, because all of these skills of scheduling suffering, they all drain your resource. They drain your resource. Physical, psychological resource being drained. Your psychology is also physical. Your psychology is also chemical. You're draining those resources every single day. If you are making sure to cultivate suffering. Hello from Israel. Hello, Ronnie. Okay, Corey Nelson. Wonderful. We'll see you around. Have a nice night. Maturity, by their sense, a huge thick wall of separation, delirium, so you don't feel it at all. Yeah. But that's a huge symptom of this infantile crystallization inside of trauma that they could not endure back in the day, that they were not meant to endure. So they just remained in this bubble. That's how I feel it. By numbing and suffering every day, don't we become anhedonic? Like, don't we see people become numb to their own emotions and become nihilistic like Nietzsche? Yes? That's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, I was eager for your opinion on my thoughts, though. We can discuss them. GCA, you can email me your yesterday's sentiment if you want, perhaps with more detail, such that it's less susceptible to my interpretations. So, another quote by David Goggins, and then we'll move on to something else. And then probably we'll cover, after this one, we'll cover one or two more quotes, and I'll be going because I still need to do, yeah. Let's do one more quote. Let's do one last quote. Do you want to do David Goggins, or do you want to do Jordan, or do you want Ellen Watts, or some random person? We have one last quote left because, yeah, it's getting late. And I'm not setting more records like that last time when we did when we did the till past sunrise for me. I didn't want that. Alan Watts. We'll vote for Alan Watts. Okay, I'm going to just like scroll, and then automatically we'll pick it. Maybe we'll even. This one is interesting. Boo. Oh, this one is an interesting one. When we attempt to exercise power or control over someone else, we cannot avoid giving that person the very same power or control over us. Let me focus on trying to control someone. That's indeed a very true statement, by the way. When we attempt to exercise power or control over someone else, we cannot avoid giving that person the very same power or control over us. Because essentially that person will be entitled to satisfy some very deep need of ours. Kiyoshka, thank you so much for your gift. Effectively, by the way, exercising power or control over someone is in a sense surrendering power or control. Because your well-being is based on that. That's by definition like what you strive for when you are trying to exercise power or control. Wait. Let me do something. I keep giving in the temptation of these gifts. Thank you so much, Cute. Thank you so much. Look, so much cute. Go ahead, GCA. Thank you so much, GCA, for your gift. So, in terms of employment, if you are a cruel manager, then you open the door for that person to be cruel to you in kind. In terms of employment, if you're a cruel manager, okay, you're trying to control your employee. You're trying to exercise power over them. Power is vulnerability. I feel it as vulnerability when you have to exercise power. The moment this person doesn't obey, you effectively lose a strong foundation for yourself. That's how I feel it. It kind of becomes, the loss of power becomes a threat. I like the flower one a lot. Yeah, it's very pretty. Another fun quote. One is a great deal less anxious if one feels perfectly free to be anxious, and the same way may be said of guilt. So, this one is an interesting one, and this is what ties to allowing the experience instead of repressing the experience. Because when you're trying to control the experience, if you're trying to control what is to come to you, what's already come to you, then your focus is so diverted into that plane to control that you effectively 10x the anxiety, you 10x the experience. Experiencing the emotion, letting it dissipate without dragging, without building any concept. Because you know how you, for example, can have an emotional response if you let your mind build a concept around it. It will become far more sticky, it will become far bigger in your mind than if you just experience the experience as an anxiety. But if, for example, you're like, oh, I can be anxious, shouldn't be anxious, being anxious is so bad, you build persona around it. You build a whole concept, you build a whole phenomenon that now sits in your neocortex, that now has almost materialized entity inside of your metaphysical space. And now this anxiety that would just come and go like a biochemical spike now has a whole domain inside of your mind. So instead of letting it come and go, dissipate naturally, if you start creating a concept around it, now you build a house for it inside of your mind. And now it's stuck. And now it becomes the stable domain. And now it becomes, you lose kind of, when you lose innocence around the emotions, when you deliberately choose non-innocence around the emotion, and you choose to turn it into something bigger than it is, good luck uncovering that. When something becomes a part of your learned, assimilated knowledge with the whole concept surrounding it. That's why I'm a great advocate of, if you already are susceptible to some emotions, it's very important to let them do its track, but without any concepts, without that, oh, I was so stupid, oh, I was so weak, I was so dumb to experience this. If an important thing here, you can reflect on it afterwards. An important thing here, the reflection on why, for example, invented of anxiety, of some emotional discharge happened to you, it's good to analyze afterwards. But let's not assign at this peak self-reflection as well. Because what will happen is that when this anxiety peak happens, for instance, or guilt or whatever, very negative, like very like kind of fight or flight emotion is struck, if you give it some costume that will be long lived in your mind, in what context I want to comment on that? Basically, I want to say, do not assign anything, any concept, on the peak of this fight or flight. Do not do that. The same tip is like, people sometimes, they opt for substance, they opt for alcohol when they're stressed. That's shown in the movies. That's a part of pop media. That people are stressed and they're like, oh, just drink a shot or something. Just drink a glass of wine. Don't do this. Do not assign the peak fight or flight things to stimuli, to concepts, to hyperfixation, to self-reflection. Don't. Let it dissipate. Have tools. Go to tantric teaching. Learn tools, somatic training tools, to allow this peak to dissipate naturally, and then reflect back when you're already in a normal, soothed, parasympathetic mode. Go back and think, why was I anxious in this moment? Why did the words of this person affect me so much? Why did this event affect me so much? Or, when you are already proficient with that, you can start working with the onset of this emotion. For example, you work a lot on yourself and you identify that this is the onset of the peak anxiety. Like right here will be panic attack. But I am accruing these anxious responses right now. When you're worked enough, when you start observing the trends in your life, right here you can reflect on that and you can alleviate it before it develops into a panic attack, for example. or before it develops into this like breaking down and tears, feeling this burning sensation of guilt, as Ellen Watts bringing up here. But we're not doing anything on this peak or close to this peak. Let it dissipate, let it fade a little bit. In Tantra, we use breathing techniques, we use numerous techniques. Breathing are the dominant ones, but for more advanced users, there are other techniques that we can use to not allow this peak of anxiety, guilt, whatever dominant things are for you, to not blow up. We learn to either have very fast flash and go, or we soothe these peaks and we necessarily bounce back. Because the last thing we want is to go on this peak and then keep going. This is the most dangerous scenario of all. This is where this is how I would interpret this quote by Alan Watts about one is a great deal less anxious if one feels perfectly free to be anxious, and the same way may be said of guilt. True love means making someone independent. Well, you won't make them, you should make yourself independent first. Because making someone is already kind of interesting vector to think towards. Forgive. Why Tantra and spirituality works for women and not for men. Like, no man promotes it. There are plenty of men promoting it. Actually, I follow male people who talk about it. The thing is that there are teachings for men that are a little bit skewed by the Western viewpoints, Western values that are a little bit on David Goggins' mode of thinking. But there are very good Tantra coaches that are male as well. It's not just for female. You just never encountered that, perhaps. And Tantra is also, be mindful. Be mindful what you're studying, because there are unfortunately people who take advantage of the sexual associations with Tantra. There are some camps where people are encouraged to engage in promiscuous activities or non-consensual intimacy. This is something that is not Tantric pathway. It's not something that Tantra teaches, the traditional version of it. So beware of those schools of thought. Tantra doesn't promote promiscuity. Tantra doesn't promote guru worshipping either. There are people, unfortunately, who take advantage of, again, the sexual component of Tantra and try to stretch certain values of Tantra onto fulfilling their own needs for certain validation and exercise of power over people. So there are a lot of things that exist in it. And usually it's men who engage in that side of things, who create cults and so on. But for female Tantra, by the way, why women might be interested in Tantra is because Tantra allows you to get out of the patriarchal view of a female sexuality or female body, which inherently tries to put it under control. It gives women back the ownership of their sexuality and shows them how to work with it, how to work with their body, how to find pleasure in their body. Because no one can find pleasure when their body is merely a tool, when their bodies serve some regime. Sexual liberation for women is a very important thing, because most cultures try to own female sexuality. It's not the woman herself who owns her sexuality, but it is some system or systems. It's polluted by that. There is trade of female sexuality for resources. Female sexuality is used for marketing. It's utilized in economics, in big economics, in corporate economics. Female sexuality is used as a leverage for control. And eventually, women often lose skill of experiencing pleasure from sexuality. Unfortunate women never experience pleasure from their sexuality, from their body. Sometimes you can hear that women feel like their body, their sexuality, being born as a woman is a curse because of so many um, things, so many concepts that we receive growing up about our body. Some inherited experiences, what we hear from other women. It was just one generation ago when in Soviet countries, for instance, when a woman would endure her sexual life, she would just endure it. There are still cultures where women endure intimacy. Not intimacy, it's abuse. Their sexuality equates to pain. And for a woman who seeks liberation, sometimes it's important to find this liberation from your own mind, from the concepts that you've learned from other women. So when the woman learns to liberate herself, when the woman learns to regain ownership over her body, over her sexuality, learns what it is about, she receives tools for how to enjoy it on her own terms. This is a very empowering, this is a very profound moment in a woman's life. I'm very passionate about it, in fact, because I'm from progressive country. I'm from progressive family. I was always in very progressive environments. But even then, I still was affected. This cultural discrepancy that exists in modern Russia, and in the most progressive layers of Russian society, where I was forming up to the age of 21, even there was a lot of distortion, a lot of baggage. And then I go to more progressive society, and I realized that this baggage was affecting me, and I was listening to others, and it was affecting them. So this multi-generational baggage is affecting women's well-being. Imagine the situation. Living, feeling like your body is against you. Living, feeling that your body may be used, surrendered, rented out to keep the marriage. Was it long ago when this was the reality, when it was a mundane thing? No. When sexuality is substituted for sex appeal, when torturing the body for some idea of sex appeal is more prioritized over the internal feeling of sexuality and pleasure in the body. When there's no culture of pleasure, when there's culture of stress, when even the modern idea of female liberation, the social systemic idea of female liberation, is tied to enduring insane loads of stress by a woman, that is an antagonist of healthy functioning of anything. I'm very passionate about this. It is perpetuated by other women and makes all the more oppressive and confusing. Yes, curling scribe, yes. Even FGM is performed by women on girls for their own benefit. Sexuality is a commodity in patriarchy and a control mechanism. So amazing for you to point out the shame and pressure women endure. Yeah, it's something that even in the more progressive families, societies, you still carry inside as some seed of thought. Yes, you can choose. The beauty is that we can choose how to work with it. whether to dump it or to embrace it, to replace it with something. So, but it does take willpower, because it's not a default to be free. It's not a default to enjoy your body. It's not a default to love your sexuality unapologetically and respect it, respect the function. The default is whatever our most earliest experiences of our physicality entail, and what we absorb from the environment before we're capable of making our own judgments. And then also we face other people. Not always, it's horrendous. Even on my channel, there are men who have below sea level awareness of female physiology, and it's so hard to witness. It's so hard to witness that. It's so hard to witness that even men who are interested in Tantra, who are interested in healthy sexuality, have a discourse. They literally type it with their own hands. It comes from their own brains. That many partners create a tunnel between female legs. They type it with their own hands. That women, I don't know, that there is like this like idea of Saint Mother and the whore, object whore, forgetting where babies are made and how they're made. It's such a deeply rooted complex. It's such a deeply rooted complex. Those like Abrahamic religions that completely deny female sexuality, this earthly component of woman. Imagine there is a earthly man in Abrahamic religions, but there is no earthly woman who is glorified. So female sexuality is completely erased from normal landscape of things. There's only some holy virgin that's glorified, but female sexuality is like something that's erased from these teachings. And society is largely shaped by those teachings, unfortunately. It creates a huge disbalance. Like in societies, it's so mystical. People think that men from Mars, women from Venus, like we're just some alien creatures to each other. How? Same tissues, very little discrepancy. Yet humans believe that men and women are so drastically different. So drastically different. To achieve some compatibility, they need to, I don't know, follow some insane rules, play some games. The level of culture in that realm is very low. They're, yeah, of course, different, but not drastically. People think that drastically from different planets. No understanding possible. Ever. An unsolvable puzzle, basically. So, there's a lot to do still. And this whole self-commodification of sexuality is also a problem. How many people live renting out their body for resources or for love, for security? That's a horrendous situation. If I can help some people start living differently, it would be wonderful. I'm very driven by this idea. Of course, probably not going to so to speak save the world, but make some contribution. solve some particular problems, particular cases where it's possible. It's amazing. And yeah, at least I know that at least 2 or 3 men left my channel with understanding that there is no tunnel anywhere. And oh my god, these concepts. We all save the world by making our own contributions. Yes. Oh, so on this note, I will be. Oh, Freud thought that came from man's need to possess his mother, so he must possess his wife, girlfriend, daughter. No, Freud is a funny guy. What? That's the worst complex. Madonna whore. Yes, scroll and scribe. It is. I don't know if it's the worst, but it's pretty bad indeed. It's pretty bad because it shows such a deepest conflict inside. And also, by the way, separating female sexuality from childbirth is one of the things that make childbirth so terrible for women, I think, because suddenly, from the concept of the greatest pleasure, people go to the concept of the greatest suffering, which no physiological process in the body should be associated with suffering, especially the process that is so encouraged by nature that it's tied to the most sensitive, the most ecstasy capable organs in the body. If females, actually, it's something that I'm also so passionate about. It's such a strong topic in my life. To reconnect sexuality with childbirth, with motherhood, would be a great aid to so many people, it will solve so many problems. So, these are the directions of my work, and these come from my own deepest conflicts that I came into adult life with, and things that I worked so hard against to find the answers, to rebel against them, to not settle for them. Even in the environment that propagated the opposite, I was searching, and I found people who teach these things, and I was so greedy to learn these things, and I'm so grateful for that. But making life is special, right? And you get to be a human, pretty incredible. It is, but it's but religions explain it as the what's the initial sin, or what's it called? Like this, it's not. It's continuation of sexual pleasure. It's continuation of sexual ecstasy, and it is the hormonally. It is literally the continuation of that. But if there is conflict with your sexuality, there will be conflict with the process of childbirth. Because if you are not the original sin, yes, forbidden sex, exactly, thank you. When a woman regards that, I cried so much about that. For some reason, it was really scary thing for me. I remember how men would look at their women suffer in childbirth because it's programmed to be the greatest suffering. It's a payment for sex in a woman. That's how it is in the minds of people. And how it destroys intimacy between people, because the man ultimately begins possessing the tool for the strongest abuse of a woman, and that the child comes with a sacrifice. I don't want to be a product of sacrifice. No one wants to be a product of sacrifice. No one wants to be born out of the biggest, the most painful sacrifice. It's an insane burden to live with. Many allopathic childbirth practices scare me. Western, however, yeah, it is. There's abuse happening in the clinics. Yes, unsolicited interventions. The what, Alex? You are confirming that. You are confirming that thing. You're confirming this deepest complex that exists in many people. They're product of suffering. They're not product of ecstasy. They're not product of embodied sexual, beautiful, bright life. They are product of suffering. And that's an insane thing. I'm mother, I know from experience. Yeah, I would be curious to talk about that because I know that there are, like, a woman goes to a benign checkup, seemingly, and then they do the membrane sweep, disturbing the system, increasing likelihood of infections, or secretly put stimulating hormonal pills inside of the vagina to stimulate the birth. That prevents a woman from being able to control, to soothe, or to compensate the contraction hormones with natural chemistry that puts her in a trance that gives her reward for every contraction. They do stimulations. They try to scare people, scare women. They try to manipulate them, press them into procedures, instead of cultivating what's necessary for healthy physiological childbirth. The invasiveness of female gynecological health procedures are underrepresented. Exactly. It's something that I'm so passionate about. So passionate about. To me, it's one of the biggest conundrums too, because even if you have a whole team of people by your side when you're birthing children, you might still face pressure into doing things that are totally unnecessary. The micropolitics of this scene is so terrifying that it took me many years. It was one of the biggest, deepest conflicts for me. And that's what put me into in pursuit of, and also tied to sexuality as well, the position of female sexuality, the position of motherhood, these universal female experiences. This is what brought me to Tantra, through many different other pursuits. And I would cry every time I would learn that someone was pregnant. I would cry from super grief. I would cry from, I don't know what was the nature of that emotion. I couldn't pinpoint what it was. But whenever someone would get pregnant, I would have uncontrollable tears. I would be in depression for several days, because I knew the reality that they're about to face. And it was so, like, empathetically painful for me. And I went such a route to get different perspective on that. But I had to work intentionally to get different perspective. If you don't work intentionally to get different perspective, it's hardly possible to face it. This rebellion requires actual, like, willpower in resistance to build a new perspective. This is what's crazy to me. Yoda. Children are different. I mean, some children are great, some children are not great, some children are great for someone, but not for somebody else. It's really subjective. Thank you for diverging on this topic. I know this wasn't on your agenda. I do appreciate hearing another woman speak on these deep and suppressed issues. I'm very happy that you were here to present your point of view as well on that, because it's very easy to also on my end to be secluded on that, because there are people who always try to defocus. You see, like, if we read the chat, everyone tries to bring the attention to everything but birth. There is, like, sex exists, then something happens, then woman goes to some dark tunnel, nobody wants to notice that, and then great children, happiness of children. And what is the female experience in all of that? Somehow people, you see, they're trying to avoid it in the chat. I'm reading those messages. Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. It's too hard. It's too painful. It's too much. No, let's not talk about it. There are barriers in human minds to not talk about it. They don't want to. They want everything that's after. Let's just not notice and run. That's what we're started with. How there are sometimes you need to tune down the internal sensor to be able to face things that are too scary. So it is easy to just settle for that. Okay, this is a norm. And then numb yourself to this norm. I don't want it to be a norm. I want as many women to face the dysfunction and to find themselves working out of that dysfunction into a new reality. Not victimhood, such that female sexuality, female motherhood are not tied to victimhood inadvertently. Such that they are connected with personal freedom and pleasure. Women need to be honest amongst their feminine peers so change can happen. It's honesty and it's patience, and it is this continuum between female sexuality and other experiences. Would need to connect all of these experiences into one and heal each of these experiences from the root. I can't imagine, to be honest. It's sacrifice. No, it's not sacrifice. It shouldn't be a sacrifice. One, as a male, I can't make. So all I can do is try to rationalize the reason why my mother made the choice. This is the problem, that it's a sacrifice. Sacrifice is when you throw something in the bloody bucket. I don't think it should be so. I don't think it should be framed as such. I heard the stories about this horrendous situation that my mom went through when she was birthing me. Over and over, over and over, over and over. And I was like, well, it makes no sense. And then it's like, it puts women into a depression. It puts women in loss of self. It puts women in through so many things that it must be changed on a cognitive level, on a physical level, on a systemic eventual level. I don't want the sacrifice. The issue with pregnancy is a woman doesn't always make a true choice to be pregnant, even if she finds herself in that condition, whether through coercion or other means. That's another thing. And then because there is sometimes perceived non-autonomy by a woman, it can cause this feeling of victimhood, inherent victimhood. But starting with autonomy, with reclaiming body, with reclaiming pleasure, these problems can be avoided. I get so fired up by this topic. I get so fired up, and maybe for a good reason. We can continue on that. You see, I only have experienced only a part of that. And I still have some work in progress on the motherhood portion, because this is something that I'm still studying in myself. This is something that I'm still figuring out. That perhaps it's not a good time for me to talk about this in a wholesome fashion, because I only have gone through one component of that so far successfully. But this for sure, when I do have experience with the other half of it, boy, I don't know what to expect for sure, but speak truth. Okay, GCA. Thank you. I have things I'm passionate about. We all have had reason to start searching inward. Yes. And thank you, Kyushka, so much for beautifying the chat. It's very nice. Thank you so much. I don't take it for granted or dismiss it. It's very nice. Yeah, Akiva. So then let's part because I need to. I still have some pleasant duties that I need to complete. And I will see you maybe later this week. People who are attending the workshop expect the links from me on Friday or maybe Thursday night. Today's what? Today's okay. So Kiwiko, we're already done for tonight. So I am going to sign off, and I'll see you maybe later this week, or maybe when will we meet? We'll continue. We'll probably do 1 or 2 days a week with quotes, with different interesting things, or maybe also studying some resonant events. That will be also interesting because maybe we'll find some social things that happen and branch out to that because quotes are quotes, they're kind of said and done, but different events that occupy people's minds might also be interesting to study. And then the lectures. Thank you, Kiva. I'm very happy that this is interesting. And Dwayne, everyone, bye bye. Love you guys. Love you too, GCA.